fighting forks.
Hell no, man. No. That is soft.
Yeah. That is one of the most confusing and exhilarating single sentences I have ever read. What's up, Falcons fans, and welcome back to the Friday Five. I'm Will McFadden, joined as always by Tori McElhaney. Tori, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah?
You know, busy but well.
Very busy, but it's exciting. Coaches, players, everybody's back in the building.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like now there's no parking anymore, and so I can't just park in the middle of the player lot because now it's all full. But it's nice true. Because the halls don't echo anymore because there are actual people here.
Yeah, I did always have like a spot that I looked forward to trying to get, and I haven't gotten it in a while, and I'm like, all right, I guess it is that time. Yeah. But on today's show, we're going to go over what else? The draft.
Of course.
You know, we've got more draft strategies that we're going to talk through. We're really going to kind of pursue a lot of the different avenues that I think the Falcons could take, walk through them, the thoughts behind each of them. And these are really just off the top of Tori and I's head. So, but it is what we think realistically could be kind of like the lanes that they take when it all is said and done. And then stay tuned at the end of the show. We've got more conversations with some of the newest Falcons. We've got Sean Hand first and then Jahan Dotson following him up to close everything out. So how's that all sound to you today, Tori?
I mean, pretty good. I wasn't a part of the interviews with Jahan and Deshaun.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to listening with everybody else.
Every time there's like a lot of ons now.
Right, yeah.
And so anytime somebody's like, Jahan, Deshaun, I keep thinking of that East-West Shrine Bowl where it's like Lamar, Jamar, Javarson, Lamar or whatever,
so
and they're
good.
doing all the different player names.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Maybe I'm the only person in the world that finds that funny, but hey, if you can't laugh at yourself.
What can you laugh at?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
But I wanted to ask you about this because ever since I opened up the document, I've just seen like what Tori kind of into lately, and you've written down HBO Chernobyl is Tori's current Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Nuclear physics reading to go to bed. And
yeah.
That is one of the most confusing and exhilarating single sentences I have ever read. And I need you to explain much more about that.
So I've been trying to find like new shows to watch, and HBO's Chernobyl, which is like the dramatized, version of the real life events of the Chernobyl nuclear explosion.
Based on true events.
True events. Yeah. I've recently gotten into that show, and from my brain, like, I kind of fixate on things a lot. And so I've started watching this. And so every night before I go to bed, I'll like go read about it to like go to bed because I'm like, okay, this is what it says happened. But did that really happen? Like, it's based on true events. But did they really send miners underneath the explosion to like go make sure that the fissures or whatever didn't seep into the groundwater to make sure that all of Ukraine still had water to drink?
This is all right before you just hit I believe this is the number one recommended way that sleep doctors
100%
say you should get ready for bedtime.
And then like also like trying to figure out like why it even exploded in the first place, like because that was a whole thing that no one understood. It wasn't supposed to be possible that it could have exploded.
Yeah.
Like
real Titanic of a nuclear power plant.
Yes, yeah. Y'all know, if y'all been listening to this podcast for a while, this is not anything new. I went on a 5-minute rant about the Titan submersible. Like
that's true.
This is
freaks me out.
Pretty par for the course for my brain. So yeah, so I've been falling asleep to like going through and reading about Chernobyl.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I've been on the record many times saying that HBO's Chernobyl is, in my opinion, the single greatest piece of content that has like ever been created.
Wow.
I love that like limited series.
I didn't know that about you.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
It's so good.
I'm 3 episodes in, and
buckle up.
It's been really
you got a lot more doom scrolling to do.
So much. I'm learning a lot.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But like just the visceral tension. That you, like, it makes you feel the cadences of like how they shoot each scene.
Yeah.
I feel like the audio effects of it are second to none.
Yeah.
Like my heart, I feel so anxious.
So anxious watching it, and I think that it feels real. Like the anxiety of it feels real, and it does feel like, that how dire it was. I think they've done such a good job of like capturing that.
Yeah, and the cast of that is incredible.
Yeah.
Jesse Buckley, Jesse Buckley.
Yeah.
Now an Oscar winner, so that's great. So I love that for you.
Thank you.
I also hate that for your sleep regimen.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm also the same person that I'd watch like cop body cam footage to go to sleep too. Like that's what I would watch before I go to bed. So it's really not like
we are very different people.
We are. You would think that I'd want to be calm before I go to bed, but no, I'm like, give me all the like chaos information.
There you go. I love that. Unfortunately, there's like a little bit of chaos information that came out yesterday.
Oh gosh, yeah. I know.
I don't know if that's a good segue or not, but it's a segue. There we go.
It definitely wasn't expected.
It was not expected.
Yeah.
At least not by you or me, and that's Kaleb McGary's retirement.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I first saw that, it came out of kind of left field for me, and I felt kind of two feelings about it. The first being obviously, okay, like how does this affect the team on the field? Second is like I've just really kind of enjoyed covering Kaleb McGary.
Right, yeah.
As a person, as a player, he was one of the more interesting characters in the locker room, and I almost feel like character does a disservice because that makes him sound
like a caricature.
Yeah,
but
right. He was just the most regular dude.
Very real. A very real person. And like that, what a weird thing to say. Like we're all real people. But same thing. Like I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know him and his interests and his hobbies. And he has a very large repertoire of things that he loves. Like, and it's, he loves the outdoors. He loves hunting. And like I have been he recently got married a couple years ago. Like it's just one of those things where you get to know people because you're together all the time or you're around all the time. And he was always somebody who I loved hearing his stories. I loved talking to him. And so just like the footballness aside, like just the person, like it's a very large presence to fill in Atlanta.
Yeah, well said. And I mean, you mentioned his wedding. Like he wore a kilt.
Yeah.
At his wedding, he cut his cake with a broadsword.
Right.
Like this man contained so many multitudes.
Oh yeah.
But also, he would have been like the best just third chair at this podcast.
100%. One of my favorite podcasts that I've ever done here was with Kaleb McGary, and it was back in the old podcast studio, which was just like a room in the indoor facility. And he would just like talk about his hunting stories and like all, like his crossbows and all these different things. And I think that it's going to be really interesting because talking about like how out of left field it felt. Like I was literally at owners meetings a week ago asking Kevin Stefanski and Ian Cunningham about Kaleb McGary coming back. I was literally planning on writing a story about like, okay, you get Kaleb McGary back, you get Jake Matthews back, and you feel really good about your tackle situation moving forward into 2026. And it's like, I'm glad I didn't write that, because then here we are a week later and it's like, oh, things have shifted very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you look to what their tackle situation could be next season, I mean, we saw reports shortly after the news of Kaleb's retirement. Adam Schefter tweeted that Jahan Taylor was somebody the Falcons were going to add to their roster. So he's obviously a veteran.
Yes.
Former second-round pick. He's played and won in a Super Bowl. So it'll be really interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about what Jahan brings to the table and how he fits with the roster when that move is official. So maybe next week, maybe post-draft as we're kind of like looking at the makeup of the roster. But with the draft also, coming up very quickly, we have danced around like offensive line, tackle, but more in like a depth way. Does this change your feelings at all about that position in particular and like where it falls in the hierarchy now heading into it?
I think if there wasn't this immediacy of the Jahan Taylor signing, I think, or not official yet, but the reports of his signing, I think if that wasn't immediate, I probably would have fallen down the hole of speculating about the Falcons taking a tackle at 48. I still don't think, though, that like getting Jahan Taylor completely wipes that thought out. Like I think it does kind of, it's just a one-year deal, but this is somebody who has a ton of starting experience as a veteran in this league. I think the only reason, if I remember reading correctly, the only reason he's not still with Kansas City is because he was making too much money. Like they had cap casualties this past year. So I think like in terms of what you're getting, I think you're getting a very viable starter for at least a year, and then you figure things out from there. But because it's only a year, because we're not talking about this in the long-term sense, whereas Kaleb McGary wasn't going to be a free agent until, 2027?
I believe he was going into it would have been next offseason,
right? Yeah.
Right?
So, you're still kind of, to me, in the same exact boat.
Yeah, final year of Caleb's deal.
Right,
1
yeah.
year of...
That to me makes it to where it's like, okay, offensive tackle, if they wouldn't have gone out and gotten Jahan Taylor, I think I probably would have been like, oh, that skyrockets. But because they went out and got him, I don't think it necessarily changes how I feel about whether or not you go get an offensive tackle at 48 or 79. I think it's still, if there's an offensive tackle that you really like in those spots, absolutely go get him. But it's not like if you don't get an offensive tackle, then this year is just completely blown up. I don't feel that way.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that is why very quickly we saw those reports of Jahan Taylor kind of come in, because he, I do believe, would fill that hole pretty easily and pretty quickly for you. So let's put a pin in that, though.
Yeah.
We're going to return to offensive line draft prospects. But one of the reasons we wanted to even do this exercise in the first place is because as we have been talking about the draft in recent episodes, we've kind of danced around the idea of, all right, what should the Falcons approach in this draft? They currently only have 5 picks, so how should they use those, right? And I think you and I have been circling kind of defense is the way that when we're looking at it holistically, all right, there are a lot of reasons this makes sense. So kind of if you have to plug offensive line in there early, that is a little bit of a wrench in the logic that you and I have danced around. But I felt like we should just kind of pursue that reasoning a little bit more extensively. So why should the Falcons take a defense-focused approach, Tori? They used 4 of their 5 picks last year on defense. They used 5 of their 8 picks the year before on defense. That's a lot of investment in the defense so far. Why should they maybe keep doing that?
I think because it worked last year. What you were able to get out of your draft picks defensively from last year, you got 4 viable starters in one singular year. And it's unfortunate about Billy Bowman Jr. You hope that he can come back and be the caliber of player he was those first 4 games, because he was arguably more than anybody else in terms of rookie status of those first 4 games. He was playing out of his mind a little bit and kind of came on a lot quicker than maybe even the Falcons thought, So I think that when you look at the roster makeup at this point in time, that you have contracts and potential extensions for Bijan Robinson and Drake London that are not going to be cheap. And I feel like if you're building up the defense, you aren't really necessarily doing it through these big-time free agency deals. To me, the way that you offset kind of what you're having to do with Bijan Robinson and Drake London, potentially what you would maybe like to do, which is keep them around long term, that's going to take up a lot of money. And you also still, as we're talking about, you have to think about a world where Jake Matthews is retired. You have to think now that Kaleb McGary is retired. You have to think about a world at tackle. So I those are some high-level premium positions.
Yes.
Whereas defensively, I think that when it comes to starters and what you need and the depth that you need, I think that there are some viable options in the draft this year that can help you fill all of those things out immediately. Because also you think about it too, Jesse Bates is on the last year of his deal as well.
Yep.
I think when you're looking at the future of this group, there's a lot of spaces that need to be filled. And I don't know if how you value in terms of salary cap, how much you're going to put towards those defensive guys when you can get some viable guys and some viable starters and role players for you in the draft. So that's why as I'm looking at where things are, offense versus defense, I feel a lot better about what you have offensively. I feel like the needs defensively are a lot higher at this point in time, and also with the context of the ramifications for the cap.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because you're right. I do think there are some immediate needs on defense. Certainly when you lose Caden Ellis, David Onyemata no longer here, like those are some pretty significant roles that they need to fill. And you also kind of look at the strengths of this draft class, right? And I think you're hearing the consensus is like, all right, the deepest positions are probably on the defensive side of the ball.
Which is literally what I asked Ian Cunningham at owners meetings. I was like, I'm doing all these mock drafts. Like, where are you seeing the run on guys?
You're like, help me.
Yeah, I was like, where are you seeing the depth? And he said corners. He said there's depth there, depth at safety, depth at defensive end. Like there are, and all three of those, obviously, defensive positions. Like,
yeah.
So even as I'm currently in the middle of doing a top 100 mock draft, and even as I'm looking at it and looking at comparing where guys are going in the second, third, fourth round, it is a lot of defensive guys. It is very defensive heavy. You don't have these big time quarterbacks that are going to make a run in the first round. You have a lot of defensive guys, D-tackle, corners that are going to be there at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round, that I think the Falcons could really highly value, who honestly may have a first round grade on them that falls down to 48.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, we were talking about kind of the weirdness of this draft class just before recording. But you look at those holes that we just mentioned, and so that's the one part of it. But the other part of it is I weirdly feel like the Falcons are not far off from making defense kind of like what they can really lean on for a good part of this season. I had a piece go up this morning, actually, on Thursday, about Jesse Bates, who talked Wednesday, detailing just like year two in Jeff Holbrook's scheme. And this is the first time in a long time the Falcons have run back their defensive coordinator, which is kind of saying something about the interesting body types that they've accrued over the years and the multiplicity that Jeff Holbrook now feels that he has at his disposal. But it also speaks to just kind of the optionality that now they can go with. And there was a great quote that Jeff Holbrook gave where, he said, "It's exciting because with the multiplicity that we built on defense, it's really given us a bigger group of players to really evaluate and potentially sign." And he said the scheme now allows us to kind of pivot and go in the direction of the talent. So on the one hand, that to me means that he's open to doing some creative things. It also, I think you could read that as like they haven't found a true identity yet. And there are a lot of young players that are kind of rising up. You look at Jalen Walker, we mentioned Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts, those guys. Who's going to take over this defense and what is the identity going to be? But I don't feel like they're far off from making that part of the identity of this team. And if you add a good young player in that second round who you can kind of coalesce around, I see that as a path to success for Atlanta in 2026 is kind of flipping that and leaning to defense and then letting your stars on offense kind of do what they've been doing over the last couple of years.
Right. And that's the thing is like you've invested so much in offense over the last, 5 years that now it's time to see that come to fruition.
Yep.
Whereas defensively, let's be honest, has probably been a bit more on the back burner, at least draft-wise. And you had some guys who maybe didn't exactly work out. So now you are looking at a defense that's pretty young when you look at it holistically, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, we've talked ad nauseum about how there are some really good defenses in this league that prioritize the draft in rebuilding their defense that are playoff caliber teams.
Yes.
So I think that if you're looking at what the Falcons could do, I think there is evidence across the league of what happens when you value your defense in the draft.
100%. I think like a player like Brandon Dorlus last year, the leap that he made, let's say Rukaroro continues to kind of like make strides and can make a similar type, then you are feeling really good about some of the young players that you have. What Divine Diablo did last year was amazing. I think Mike Hughes has had moments where he's really strong. Maybe you add kind of a corner, a defensive back in the draft to build out that depth. Where would you like to see Atlanta go maybe in that second, third round defensively if you kind of had your pick of, all right, linebacker, defensive tackle, DB, like where do you think makes sense for them to maybe address first?
I think it's defensive tackle. I've made it no secret that that's what I would value at that run because I do think that there's going to be some really good defensive tackles around that spot. I think that,
So is it more about the caliber of players available or
Yeah.
like the value of the position itself in the grand scheme of the defense?
I mean, it's both because
Okay.
I think you have to kind of understand where the Falcons are from a needs standpoint because you understand that, they're going to value that higher. Like, I also think that if someone like a Jacob Rodriguez falls to 48, he would be somebody who I think there's an argument to be made that he's the best player available while also kind of capitalizing on a need that you have. So, but for me, I mean, there are just a few. Christian Miller, Lee Hunter, Peter Woods. Like, I don't know if they're going to get to 48, but if they're there, Caleb Banks, I would kind of be excited about getting those guys at 48. Like, that's the thing is, like, you're thinking about guys that you would be excited to bring in here for one reason or another. Like, that's a group of defensive tackles that I think would really fall in line well with the young group, Rukaroro, Brandon Dorless, that they already have here.
Yeah, I do really like this group of defense tackles, and specifically the way that they complement, like Dorless and Ororo. Like you're saying, they're kind of more of the nose tackle-y, one technique, like big body run stuffer types, which the Falcons could use.
Yeah.
But I keep kind of thinking about how important Caden Ellis has been, and we know there's no one player that's going to be able to slot in and replace him, but that's just a big role. And we mentioned on kind of the Matchmaker pod, like Jalen Walker, could he be a fit there? But I like some of the linebackers that could be there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really do think the Falcons could go a variety of ways there, and that's what's going to make kind of the second round so interesting. And what we will be talking about, I think, at the end of night one of the draft is kind of like, all right, where did that run happen? Which of those positions maybe fell down the board, and which has the most abundance going into day two for the Falcons to be deciding between. But let's say the Falcons look at their defense and they're like, we have invested a lot in this side of the ball recently. We like some of our in-house options. We brought in Azeez Ojulari, we brought in Christian Harris and Channing Tindall. Like, we like some of these options we've got. What we need to do is maybe continue to bolster up the offense, add depth there, add some more playmakers, and get some guys who fit what our new offensive coordinator, new head coach like to do. What would you make of kind of that approach if they decided to lean offense?
I don't hate that idea. I mean, I think we said it at the top of the pod that now offensive tackle was going to be a thought regardless of what happened with Kaleb McGary. Now it changes a little bit, but I'm not putting it outside the realm of possibility that offensive tackle is something that they could be looking at 48. I'm not putting it outside the realm of possibility that a wide receiver is somebody they could be looking at 48. Like, I think that you could go get a receiver later in the draft. Yes. Like, and kind of get what you need out of that, but I think, like, bringing back Olamide Zaccheaus, bringing Jahan Dotson, like, that also changes the priority of receiver. I think going into this draft cycle before free agency, I was putting wide receiver as the number one area that the Falcons could pursue, like a draft to build depth around Drake London. I don't feel that way as much as I did then because of the moves that they made in free agency, and so it's now moved offensive tackle up above wide receiver for me. So those are the two positions that if you're gonna go offense, I could see making an argument at 48 or 79 to go after one of those two position groups.
And I do think wide receiver is a little bit deeper. Probably, certainly this is the case most years, like, than offensive line. I just think that generally there are more wide receivers that you feel good about. Like, the fifth round is kind of an interesting upside prospect. Your top offensive tackles are going to be gone in the first round because of the value of that position. But you're also working on your top 100 mock draft currently. And as we were walking in here, you were in the 70s?
Yeah.
So kind of like early third round. And you're like, I got to run on receivers going. So
because there was like a bunch of what ended up happening, at least so far, and it was that everyone was kind of sitting there, we do need a receiver, but there's a defensive tackle who's like sitting right there. And so I ended up like dropping down receivers that had like a second to third round grade. I actually had a lot of them falling out of the second round into the third round because of the value that other teams were, in my brain, putting on linebacker, on defensive tackle, on safeties, like some of the, and it kind of made the wide receivers like, we'll get a wide receiver later on. That was kind of the thought process that I had even as I was going through this
But
exercise.
that is why I think mock drafts are so valuable and useful and fun to mostly like do. You know,
Yeah.
reading the mock drafts, you can kind of get a sense of the same thing, but doing them really puts you through the paces like as a thought exercise, and you start to see, okay, yeah, this is where the run could happen. This is where a slide could happen, and it's not necessarily anything's wrong. It's just like, hey, teams are seeing the depth and the whole board like the Matrix,
Right?
and they're playing the big game. So if last question kind of about the offense, but looking at what they've added with Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, what they already have in Drake, and we can even throw Kyle Pitts in there, like, is there a type of wide receiver that you think the Falcons would be most benefited by adding to this lineup?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think you need like, you know, your big body. I think you have your big bodies. I think that I wouldn't mind another like speedy option in the slot. I know that Drake London is kind of the type of guy who you put in the slot as kind of that big slot guy, and that's where a lot of his mismatches come from. It's where a lot of his success comes from. But I like the idea of having kind of a completely different look for a smaller, speedier slot that I could get on board with.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, as well as more you are kind of like zagging to where the league is going, because I think that bigger slot, move your best receiver in there, has been a thing now for a couple of years. And so you've had a couple of draft cycles for teams to maybe adjust and be like, all right, we need to prioritize this type of player. So then now might be an opportune time to be like, all right, let's change it up a little bit and attack an area that teams maybe haven't been investing in all that much.
I think a big thing is just like speed overall. Again, like not necessarily like even I'm kind
real Urban Meyer mindset.
Right?
Look at you.
Yeah. Well, I think that for me, it's like I think that Jahan Dotson adds speed. I think Olamide Zaccheaus adds speed. I wouldn't mind seeing a third guy who can take the top off of the defense, because I think that was something that in the last couple of years you've missed, especially when you didn't have Darnell Mooney at 100% last year. You missed kind of that speed option at receiver.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And this year, and part of the reason that this exercise I find so compelling is because I usually try to start, I don't know about you, but like with a track record. Anytime I go into the offseason, free agency, draft, it's like, what have the people who are making these decisions done before? What are the tendencies? Just like a defensive coordinator, what's the offensive coordinator's tendencies? Like, who do they like, the body types, the styles, things like that. But we don't really have a track record with Kevin Stefanski or Ian Cunningham in these roles. And so we can kind of just go off of what they've told us. And Tori, one of the very first things that we learned about Ian Cunningham is that this dude just loves draft picks.
Yeah.
He just loves Valentine's Day. He gets a bouquet of flowers for his wife and for all the draft picks that he has in his back pocket. Like that is what he is all about. And so I could so see a world where like they're going into this draft saying, we're not so much focused on where all the players are. We want to get picks. We want to get, as he said, more swings at the plate. How likely do you think it is that the Falcons kind of come out of here with 2-3 more draft picks than they had going into it?
I think it's very likely.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly likely, because Ian Cunningham has made it absolutely no secret, as you said, that this is something that he values and wants more of. Telling the scouts in the very first meeting he has with them, like, you're never going to have just 5 draft picks in a single year again. Like, prepare for that.
Those pretty big words.
Yeah. So when you have someone who's that committed to, I almost said committed to the bit. It's not a bit. Like, he believes this, but he's so committed to it. The difference this year is, as much as, and I think he's also kind of preparing himself in the event that there isn't any more than 5, because we were talking to him at owners meetings, and, you know, he was saying, you have to go into this draft, as much as I would love to have draft picks, as much as I would love to have more than 5, you do have to go into this draft with the understanding that you could only have 5. That's why they were so active in free agency, is because they had to build a roster, because and he kind of said that, and I wrote about this earlier this week, about how the strategy that they have kind of gone with this year in Ian Cunningham's first year is not really where he wants to live. He doesn't want to live in this very heavy free agency where you're building up debt through free agency. Like he still wants to do that, of course, but he said, like, I want to make our draft picks do that. Like, I want.
That is kind of what the draft should be for.
Right. Yeah. And so the fact that we're looking at an offseason that isn't really what Ian Cunningham like ultimately wants to get this organization to, I think is pretty fascinating that he's having to live in this world that he maybe doesn't want to and wants to get out of. But in the sense of acquiring picks, he's like, I want to acquire more picks in the future as well. Like, I think a big thing that a lot of people are saying about the 2026 draft class versus the 2027 is there's a lot more looking ahead to 2027 than there is right now living in 2026, which I think is pretty fascinating as you're talking about accumulating more picks. So are the Falcons going to kind of go off kilter a little bit? Like, are they, while the league is zagging towards 2027, is there a way that the Falcons can zig back to 2026 to acquire more picks? Like, that's a thought that I have. And I think Ian Cunningham even said, like, we're already looking at different ways to potentially manufacture more picks like that. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like, that's the hand that they were dealt. But they're trying to figure out ways moving forward to create more opportunities and more swings at the plate.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a mindset that he wants to have, right? Like, coming up with Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore, like, that was the values approach. Philly with Howie Roseman, we've seen what they've done. And then Ryan Poles in Chicago, like, they would love to accrue more picks. And you really don't even have to look further than his first year with the Bears. When I think they went into that draft with 6 picks and they came out of it with 11. And a lot of those picks were on day 3 that they added. And you could so see a realm where that's what they do. And it just so happens to kind of align with, I think, the strength of the draft. Like, that's where you would probably want to have the most picks, which might also be the reason maybe it doesn't work out that way, because teams are like, there's not anybody we want to really move up for.
Exactly.
We are comfortable with the value of the picks that we have. So it always takes 2 to tango, and that could be the difficulty and the nuance. You may want to go into it, but it just doesn't turn out that way.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair, and that's kind of why he said, like, the worst case scenario is only having 5 picks, but that's what you have to prepare for.
Yeah.
Like, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yep. And speaking of kind of Ian's time in Chicago, as we were looking at how he would build up through the trenches, because that was kind of like one of the other things that he said in his introductory press conference is that's what we believe in. And when you look at the success that Chicago had last year, I think a large part of that had to do with the investment that they made in the trenches, right? We know they brought in Grady Jarrett and Drew Dahlman. Both of those guys played really well for Chicago. But I was thinking specifically about kind of the offensive line and the conversation that we had back at the Combine with, remind me of his name,
Kevin
please.
Fishbane.
Thank you,
Yep.
Kevin. It was a great conversation. Please go listen to it. Kevin is lovely.
Yeah.
But how for kind of a few draft cycles, the Bears tried to address their offensive line through the draft. Ultimately, they were like, look, we got to fix this. We're going out and signing guys who have done it at the NFL level. So that makes sense to me then in the context of also the Jawan Taylor reports. It's like, all right, if you need, especially on the offensive line, because that is an area where I think you look at where players are in college when they're kind of coming out and then what the NFL game is, and there is a little bit of a gap, I think, that players have to traverse there and kind of develop. So that just got my brain like whirling about, okay, offensive line versus defensive line, this draft, where the prospects are. I could see a world that as much as we're talking about the offensive line prospects, like maybe building through the trenches is something offensively they envision for free agency, and maybe defensively that is where you're like bolstering it in the draft. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think it's a good thought too. You also got to think too that when it comes to defensive line, there's such a heavy rotation there,
True.
and you're not
That's a great point.
you're not having to get guys who are playing every single down.
Yeah.
You're playing guys, 2 plays here, maybe 3 plays here, 4 plays there, like in something that Nate Ollie.
I love how like the expression you made of 4 plays.
Right.
You're like,
well,
4 plays.
Well, that was the thing is Nate Ollie has told us a few times, like, I don't want guys out there for 4 plays in a row. I want guys coming in, being fresh.
Lines.
Like it absolutely is. And so for that reason, I think it's easier to get a defensive tackle ready to go to be a role player than it is maybe at times to get an offensive tackle ready to go play every single down against Myles Garrett, play in, play out, just to throw out a name. Like, that transition, I think, is a bit easier. You can have a quicker transition with defensive tackles than offensive tackles. And I think that's why, kind of to your point, like sometimes if you don't have guys, if you need an offensive line to be ready right away, the easier thing to do is to go out and to get guys who already have shown that they can do it right away. Because they've been doing it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, later on, when you hear the conversation with Jahan Hand, he brought up a scenario as kind of his welcome to the NFL moment. But he prefaced it by saying they went into the game with his coach being like, "You're going to get 10 snaps." Right? You can't really do that with an offensive lineman.
Right.
Yeah, like you're going to get 68 snaps today, my guy. Like.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And 30 of those are going to be in pure passing situations where the other team knows that they can rush the quarterback against you. Like, handle that. So, the fantastic point by you. And you mentioned Myles Garrett. Like, Kevin Stefanski understands the impact that a good defensive line can have.
Yeah.
And even playing in the AFC North, like, that's all trench warfare up there.
Right, yeah.
It's like those are just big, mean, nasty dudes going at it for a full football game.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense that is an area that they would maybe want to invest. And I think it makes sense from a team building perspective because generally it's almost like a 3-point shooting team in March Madness, right? Like you can live and die by the 3. If you're hot, you could knock off the 2 seed. But if you go cold, you could also be going home that day. And I think by having really good play on the line of scrimmage, you can insulate yourself maybe within a football game and over the course of the season from the pendulum swings of momentum. Right, a receiver drops a pass. Okay, like you get stopped on like a 2-yard run on second down. Like I think by and large, over the course of a large sample size, winning at the line of scrimmage is going to lead to more success. So if you're kind of building up the foundation of your team, it makes sense to really invest there first and foremost.
Yeah, I like the idea.
All right. So last that we've got and kind of what we have heard Ian Cunningham say as he has come from the Baltimore Ravens is he loves best player available.
Yeah.
So, and actually there was a great piece for anybody who wants to read more on the philosophy of it. I think it was Bill Barnwell wrote it for Grantland in 2013, but it was all kind of about, it was during the Ravens kind of peak run there, about just Eric DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome and how they have navigated the draft. They let the draft come to them. They pick up value. They add players kind of wherever they may be because you're adding competition. You never know when injuries are going to happen, X, Y, and Z. So the Falcons taking that approach, I think, especially this year when they've brought in so many free agents and there isn't, outside of maybe the couple of positions we've talked about, like real true holes, they're well poised to just say, like, this is the guy at the top of our board.
So it's interesting now, hindsight being 2020 and what it is, Ian Cunningham's answer to this, where he's talking about, like, personally having been raised in the system of Baltimore, I'm a firm believer in best player available. That quote is actually off of the heels of me asking him about the tackle position. I was asking him, I was asking him in the context of, you're getting Kaleb McGary back. At the time, he was, at the time there was no thought.
That was a fair question by you.
But yeah, at the time, like we're only doing this at the time. But I'm like, okay, you get Kaleb McGary back, someone who has such experience in this league, someone who has worked beside Chris Lindstrom, and they have such this like telepathic connection. And then you have Jake Matthews. Yes, he's in the twilight years of his career, but he's the knock on wood Iron Man of the league. Like, so you should feel good about your tackles. But how do you in your brain weigh the understanding that that's not always going to be the case? And obviously life comes at you pretty fast because here we are a week later and Kaleb McGary has retired.
It's true.
So, and that was his answer. He was like, having been in Baltimore and going best player available, you never know when you're going to need depth. You never know when you're going to need a starting right tackle. You never know when you're going to need an inside linebacker or an edge rusher because injuries happen, things happen, people get cut, people get traded, all of the, you never know what's going to happen. So trying to draft for need, it's not like a, fail safe or, it's not something that you can't do or shouldn't do, but it is something where he's like, you you feel good about running back. You have Bijan Robinson and Brian Robinson Jr. But who's to say something happens? Again, knock on wood, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yep.
That's what best player available is. You're going out and getting someone that maybe you don't need today, but give it 6 months, maybe you do need them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a useful exercise, I have no idea if teams do this or don't do this, but before the draft, if you were to take your depth chart and just be like, all right, let's remove this player.
Mm-hmm. What happens?
What then?
Right.
Does that change the way that we are going into the draft?
Mm-hmm.
If this was the state of our roster right now,
Mm-hmm.
how would we feel?
Right.
So I absolutely think that is a good way to look at it. And it's also how you ended up with Bijan Robinson in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? Because going into that draft, everybody was like, Tyler Algier just set the Falcons rookie rushing record. We don't need a running back.
Yeah. He just got 1,000 yards. Things are good. The Falcons have a run game.
Exactly. But I'm really glad that Bijan Robinson is on this team. Right?
Yeah. Think of the world that we'd be in if he wasn't.
So, and I also think that, and this was the past kind of staff, but what Kyle Smith used to say about best player available, you think in terms of buckets, right? Now, again, I don't know if this is the way that Ian Cunningham and this group operates, but it makes a lot of sense. And I imagine that this is kind of, when you're looking at best player available, you've got a range of guys. You've got a group of guys that you're looking at it when you come on the clock.
100%. And the way that this staff has put their board together is they rank it horizontally and then they put it vertically and rank it again, and that puts up their top 100. So it's
Yeah, I remember reading. Can you explain a little bit, did he go into any more detail than just that?
That was kind of what he said, but the way I understood it is that that allows you to kind of take position and see where you are valuing it without putting position needs up high. You're just grading these players. Mm-hmm. You grade them horizontally from okay, here are all the position groupings and how we're ranking them. Now let's twist it vertically and see where they fall that way. Okay.
Because I'm is the x-axis the positions, the y-axis is the rounds or the
probably
the
rounds
grades.
And grades that you have on guys, and so then it changes according to
A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, according to how you look at it and what bucket they fall in, according to where they fall in the draft, and then they build out their top 100 from there.
Yeah, so that's fascinating, and it could be all right, we're here, and there are 6 guys that we have kind of projected that we feel good about taking in this round, and maybe from there, that's when you're all right, what works best for either the long-term building of our franchise, an immediate need, things like that. Yeah. So it can be a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. It's not purely just we've got a punter as the best guy on it. Right, we're just going to take him here. Doesn't always work out like that. Awesome. Well, those were kind of, I think, all the strategies. Was there anything else that has been bubbling in the back of your mind during the lead up to this conversation that you wanted to touch on here?
No, not really. I feel pretty good about knowing, again, best player available versus drafting for need. I think both can and are true.
Yeah.
It goes back to what I was saying. Just because it's not a need right now doesn't mean it won't be a need in the future. And so that's why always best player available is not the right choice to make, but I think it's the one with the backing of strategy behind it.
And I think you're just not pigeonholing yourself.
Right.
Right. You're not saying, okay, we're going to take this list of 12 possible positions we could select for. Right. And now we're narrowing it down to 4. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's all right, well, there were a run on 3 of those positions and you don't like any of the other. So what do you do?
Right.
Yeah. So it does make a lot of sense. This continues to just be an interesting draft to discuss and talk about. I mean, the pick 48 is a new wrinkle in the mix for us.
It is one of those things where I'm I'm not putting as much stress into this draft as I think I have before.
Oh, I'm stressed out.
When I'm doing these, when I'm doing these mock drafts, I'm just kind of I have no idea who's going to be there at 48. No one knows, I think, who's going to be there at 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, let alone 40 picks later.
Yeah, but I'm such a psycho. I need that answer. I need that definitive answer.
Right, and I kind of have this solace of I'm doing these mock drafts and I'm just kind of thinking, guessing, hoping what could happen, not this is going to happen. And
if you're saving all your stress for your Chernobyl deep dives late at night.
True. That's where all my stress lives.
Yeah. You're just getting it out that way. Yeah. Well, cool. Also, you can check out Tori's stress-reducing exercise, the mock drafts.
Yeah.
They are rolling hot and heavy. You got your 100-pick mock draft. What a feat by you. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's been fun, to kind of look at other teams. That's my favorite thing is that, we get so locked in on the Falcons and what they need and everything like that it allows me to kind of open up my mind a little bit to the rest of the league and how things are happening and falling there.
I know that's another benefit of power rankings and stuff in season as well.
100%.
So anytime you get a chance to just broaden the scope and have a reason to do so, it's always fun. So that will keep an eye out for the mock drafts. We will have a mock draft on the podcast feed soon as well. And please check out On the Rise, which is dropping today, tomorrow, by the time you hear this podcast.
Probably by the time.
I think, in the near future. And it's detailing more of the process behind the new jerseys and all of that, which, again, keep checking out all the jersey stuff. Let us know how you feel about them.
Yeah.
Go pick up your jersey if you haven't yet for the new season. And then I'm really excited about this one. Coming up next week, we've got our Atlanta Falcons 21st Century Draft Picks draft.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of get you ready for draft with a little draft of our own.
Yeah, exciting. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun...
it's a new exercise.
It's a new exercise, but also a fun one.
Yeah, might be some hiccups, but that's only going to make it even more entertaining, right?
Exactly.
And we will have a special guest joining us for that episode. So that will be a lot of fun. But right now, let's keep it on rolling, and we're going to go to my conversation with Deshaun Hand and Jahan Dotson. It is my pleasure to be sitting down now with Deshaun Hand, the Atlanta Falcons' newest defensive lineman. Deshaun, we've got players back in the building, coaches back in the building. I feel like the energy is back in the building. What have the first 2 days of phase one of the offseason been?
Man, I think it's just a refreshing feeling of first day of school, especially when you go to a new team. The camaraderie of the guys, you kind of just adjust to it really quickly. And then everybody got the same mindset. Everybody works hard, alpha male, so they want to be dominant. So, that testosterone, it rubs off on one another. So it's dope.
I can imagine. That's a great point I never really thought about. But when you are with kind of a new team, what is your approach? Who are you trying to bond with first? Is it the guys inside of your room, or are you just trying to find anybody who's a friendly or familiar face, maybe? What's your approach?
I would say that, obviously you look for the familiar faces. There's a lot of Bama guys here that I played with in college. Yeah. So, that's nice. Just, comfortable. And Mike Ford, me and him, we actually got drafted together. We was in the same draft class and was on the same team when we first started. So it was nice to, see him again. And then, after that, it's the D-line room. You know what I mean? You got it. Those are my guys. You know what I'm saying? So
Mike Ford is crazy.
Oh yeah.
He
that's
probably
my guy.
saw you out. He was just like, Deshaun, what's up, man?
Oh me, yeah. I mean, we didn't kept in touch, since we didn't came into the league. So it's just nice that we're teammates again.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going into your 9th year.
Correct.
In the NFL. So how has your game evolved since you were first drafted, and maybe how has it stayed the same?
I would say I evolved by just knowing the game of football. Formation recognition, keying on tendencies. The game slowed down. Yeah. Knowing what to do with my body off the field, how to take care of it. Whoever, has been following me knows, I've been dealing with different things throughout my career. So just all of those lessons and then made me a better player today. Okay.
So it's just the accumulation of knowledge and the experience gained. And then they do this, I do this.
Yeah, and then I think has stayed the same is that I'm very versatile, so I can play across the D-line. Very powerful, strong, and I feel like here I'll be able to show my athleticism.
I could tell you were powerful and strong just when I shook your hand.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. So one of the things I was really curious to talk to you about is Nate Ollie, right? Attack style defense.
Absolutely.
The energy that he brings as a person meshes really well with that. But we've also heard Kevin Stefanski say he wants to be more physical in stopping the run, right? And I think that when a lot of people hear defend the run and physical, you kind of think like a big nose tackle, 2-gap, things like that. So can you help explain how you can have kind of like a run mentality, a defending the run mentality, while also playing with an attack mentality and kind of a 1-gap mentality?
I think it starts with your mentality. I'm trying to word it without, saying
Giving
a bad
anything
word.
away?
No,
Yeah.
no, just not saying a bad word. Just blowing things up.
Okay.
If you have a blow things up mentality and then not letting one man block you, a single block shouldn't be able to block you, then that's how you stop the run. Okay. And I think everything else that's what we practice for. You know what I mean? Like just seeing like hand placement, getting off angles, everything like that. But I think mentality first is key, because if you go in there and you're thinking too much, you already lost it down.
Okay, so you're playing on your front foot all the time?
Absolutely.
There you go. One of the interesting things is I was kind of looking at your career, and I want to know if you've realized this or not. Obviously, coming from Alabama, there was red in your color scheme, but every team you've played for since has had blue. I don't think you've had red in your color scheme, and now you're coming back to the Atlanta Falcons, who just unveiled new red home jerseys.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on coming back to the red and black and getting to wear some red again?
Hey, everything's happens for a reason.
Yeah?
Yeah, so that means I got to showcase something crazy.
Have you seen the new jerseys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
They're sweet.
Yeah.
I like the color scheme here. Like, black, red, white. I mean, those is crispy. So,
Classic.
Definitely going to be swagged up out there on the field.
Heck yeah. You were teammates talking about your last stops with Tua in Miami. What do Falcons fans need to know about Tua?
Man, great guy, hard worker. He's a baller. And he's just great to be around. I mean, if you are around him, you'll leave in a better mood. He's definitely that type of guy. You know what I mean? You're going to leave better than, you met him.
Yeah,
So,
that Hawaii
absolutely.
mentality.
Oh, yeah.
Good
hey,
vibes only.
What's up, Big Goose? You know what I mean? It's just, he comes with open arms. And, and he's a dog. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, people respect dogs. Respect dogs. So I think that's what I like about here is that it's a lot of dogs here.
You're saying a lot of dogs. I went to Georgia. That's not the dogs you mean.
Oh, now let me tell you something. I'm undefeated against Georgia. So, I ain't worried about all that. You know what I'm saying?
That's something to brag about. Not many people.
Roll Tide till I die.
Did you ever lap with Tua at Alabama?
Yeah. My senior year, that was the no-look pass.
Yeah,
I know you remember when they
I was wondering if...
As
much as I've tried to erase that from my memory, it's burned.
Absolutely, absolutely. I told you, undefeated against them dogs, man. Yeah.
So you like to cook?
Absolutely.
I was doing a little research on that.
Yes, I do.
So what is your comfort meal?
Comfort meal, pot roast.
Oh, that's great. In the slow cooker, in the crock pot,
I could crock pot it. I can put it in the oven. Yeah. You name it. You know what I'm saying? I could do it.
Okay, what's the meal you're going to make if you're trying to impress somebody?
Ooh. Probably ravioli.
Really?
Yeah.
You making it from scratch?
Absolutely.
All right.
So I took one of my first trips out the country was to Italy. I was out there and I took cooking classes out there. I went to Rome, Florence, Amalfi Coast.
My wife and I just did that exact same trip.
For real? Okay.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Which place did you like the best?
We went to Sorrento.
Okay.
Down in the Amalfi Coast.
Oh, yeah.
So beautiful.
Did you try some of the limoncello?
Yeah.
Oh, man,
of
fire.
Course.
Oh, yeah.
I got a whole lemon kind of get up, right? A button-down shirt, like the shorts. It was the most matching outfit I've ever worn, but
that's all right.
It just felt right.
Oh, yeah, it's smooth. Yeah. But, so I think Italian food is my favorite food. Okay. And whenever I travel, I like to take a cooking class. Yeah. Just because it's a hobby. You know what I mean? So that was probably, my favorite part of the trip was learning how to make pasta from scratch and learning how to make ravioli and pizza and gelato.
Yeah. They make it look so easy out there. We did a cooking class in Florence, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just like, all right, you're doing this, and they're doing like 8 things at once, and it all turns out perfectly.
But you know what, though? I like because it's not really about the measurements. Mm-hmm. It's just, you got to cook with love.
Yeah, it's hard.
No, it's
baking
not,
is a science. And
what?
Cooking
You think cooking is hard? I feel like it's fun.
No, I said art.
Oh, art. Yeah,
art.
I thought you said hard. I was about to say,
it can be hard.
Yeah, no,
don't get me wrong. It can
sure.
be hard.
Now, the thing that I have a problem with is fish.
Yeah, I'm not a fish eater.
I eat fish, but cooking it, it's a little tough. Like I can fry a whole snapper, but as far as just like grilling fish, it's just I always overcook it. Okay. So like I'm working on that right now.
See, I've just never had an appetite for fish, so I can't even connect with you on that level.
Okay.
I like crab legs. That's about it though.
All right, that's cool.
All right, who's the best offensive lineman you've ever faced?
Best offensive lineman I ever faced.
Or just a memory that stands out
I got my rookie year, my welcome to the league moment.
Okay, that's great.
Was the last preseason game of my rookie year. I'm in Detroit. I was already told that I had 10 plays.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, cool.
Go make them count.
Yeah. This was like the 8th play. We are in the red zone. We playing Cleveland. Greg Robinson.
Yeah.
I take one false step down. The man just tossed me across the line. I said, never
He just washed you out.
Never again. Like I'm talking about, I got through like a rag doll. Ever since then, I take pride in not being moved and, using my hands and never taking a down off.
All right.
So, yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
He's big dude.
Man, big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You had a daughter a few years back.
Yes.
I had a son a few years back. So I'm curious, what has being a father taught you? How have you grown?
I would say patience.
It's a big one.
You because sometimes they just don't understand like when it's time to be serious, especially if you're like playing for a long time. You're like, okay, look, let's settle down. They're like, no, we want to keep playing. Yep. I'm like, okay, let's just chill. So I think just finding different methods to just solve a problem. You know what I mean? Because to them it's brand new. Even though you've seen it before, like their personality is so much different than yours. Some is similar, but like the differences is like fun. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I've learned, like you have to come up with so many games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For them.
But you know what I do like is that you can make a game out of anything.
You can.
A water bottle, a bottle cap, a piece of paper. Everything is fun. So,
I feel like it unleashes some creativity. Brings
absolutely.
out your own inner child.
Man, my favorite thing with my daughter now is we got this thing when I'm like we was watching Shrek.
Yeah.
And then the part like, do you know the Muffin Man?
Yep.
So like, so like I'll be like, Emerson, like Emmy, who's the Muffin Man? And she'll like just like look around, she's like me, and I'll just like chase her and like tackle her, throw her up in the air. It's hilarious. That's my girl right there.
I'm fighting so hard to not do a Gingy voice right now.
Ooh.
But nobody wants to know.
No. You can't be ashamed of it, man. You're pops. That dad voice has got to come out.
He loves that scene.
Right.
It's so great. A couple of rapid fire ones for you.
Let's do it.
Off the cuff. What fictional character do you most relate to?
Fictional character I most relate to would probably be you ever read The Alchemist?
I know of it. I don't think I've read it.
Yeah, so I feel like the main character, I'm losing his name right now, but I would say the main character in The Alchemist just because I've been through a lot of like ups and downs in my career. And one thing that what I got from The Alchemist is that a lot of people are so focused on like the goal and the benefits of the goal, but they don't really fall in love with the process and actually like handling the steps.
Gotcha.
So I feel like I relate to that of like, learning, okay, look, I want to be all pro. I want to, get a whole bunch of money. And I'm like, oh, when I do that, like I can do this, I'll be in Hall of Fame. And I'm like, I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, look, you got to worry about the day-to-day, taking care of your body, eating healthy, injuries might pop up. Then you got off the so like just things like that. I think I've learned and fell in love with like the lessons that I've learned, and now I'm thriving now.
That's a lesson I feel like I'm trying to learn myself right now. Yeah, to
Absolutely.
Be process-oriented, not necessarily results-oriented.
Correct.
Yeah, love that. What is something you never thought you'd be able to do until you actually did it?
I don't know. I'm pretty confident in myself. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I think I can do anything.
That's the right answer for an NFL defensive lineman.
For sure. If I put my mind to it, I can do it.
Love that.
Yeah.
How long, then this is fitting, how long do you think you could survive in a remote forest with no tools?
Man, I can survive. I'm going to survive. I'm a dog.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll make a way.
You're going to thrive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No doubt.
God, I promised myself I wouldn't ask this one, but I just think it's too funny. If we took hand away, you can't be hand, what other body part would you want your last name? Deshaun earlobe. Deshaun pinky.
Man. Deshaun. Dang, I ain't never think of that.
Just trying.
None of them got a ring to it. Deshaun foot is crazy. Deshaun knee is crazy.
I I got one that I landed on after some thought that I kind of like. I'll share it at the end.
You know what? Can I say Palm?
Deshaun Palm?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I like that. I mean, it's close to hand.
You feel me?
It's like the majority of a hand.
The cousin of it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I like Deshaun Freckle.
Man, hell no. Man. No. That is soft. See, I think Palm because I got to, smack these linemen around.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Freckle, that's too cute.
That is.
Yeah, nah, man, I'm a dog.
That is too cute.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
too edge rusher.
Come on, man. Yeah. Say that for the light. Got 250 lighter. 250 and lighter. Yeah.
All right. Well, Deshaun Palm, Deshaun Hand.
There you go.
Whatever you want to call him. This was a pleasure. I really appreciate you sitting down, and welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure to be joined now by Jahan Dotson, new Falcons wide receiver. Welcome to Atlanta, Jahan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, how has your time in Atlanta been so far? You're getting maybe used to the pollen, all that's happening, if you ever can.
Yeah, no, I feel like you can't. Honestly, my allergies have been killing me, but it's been a good time. Moving in my house and getting to know my teammates. It's been really fun.
And we're sitting down as the Masters are kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the azalea bushes and everything, you see it on TV, but one of my favorite parts of just being down here in Georgia is you'll drive down a random neighborhood and you'll see 15 of them. Have you ever had that moment yet where you're just kind of like, oh man, the nature, taking all that stuff in?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a lot different from Pennsylvania, I'll say that. But it's cool just taking in the new environment, like you said, and just getting to know my surroundings a little bit.
Okay. It's really early still, but players back in the building, coaches back in the building. What's been your impression of kind of the coaching staff so far and some of your new teammates?
Yeah, coaching staff has been great, really hands-on, talking with Coach Stefanski and, setting our team goals and who we want to be as a team and our team identity. It has been fun. Talking with my receiver coach, RP, great guy. Can't wait to get to work with him. And then, OTAs is really about coming together as a team and, building relationships with the new faces and different things like that. And that's what we've been doing out on the field for the past couple of days. So, it's been fun. It's been a new challenge, but it's been fun getting to know everyone and getting to see how guys work.
Now, I know the league can, in some ways, be small, and people all throughout. Aziz, you played with in Philly, Sidney Brown, those guys.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about OZ, but is there anybody new that you've just kind of met here over the last couple of days that you've gravitated towards?
Yeah, I mean, Drake obviously being one.
That's a good answer.
In our receiver room, a guy who I came in same draft class with. So it's pretty cool being alongside of him as his teammate. Being back with former teammates and Brian Robinson, OZ, Sidney Brown, seeing familiar faces like that, and it is different guys who you see throughout the locker room, and you gravitate towards them, and it's been cool building those relationships.
That was a crazy receiver draft class.
Yeah, it was.
What were your memories of that process, going to the combine, just kind of spending time with all those dudes?
Yeah, it was truly fun. Just because we, like you said, it was so much talent in that receiver draft class. And I don't know how many picks in a row we went. I think we went 6 out of 8 picks were receivers or something crazy like that.
The run started super early.
Super early. So it was pretty cool. But being able to see those guys throughout college, and you're kind of competing with those guys, and then to see it on draft night come to fruition, it was awesome.
What was your initial reaction to kind of hearing the Falcons were interested in bringing you in, and what did they explain to you when they said, hey, here's how we think you can help this team, how you fit in with the offense, all that stuff?
Yeah. Going into free agency, you got to go into it with an open mind. You never know who's going to be the suitor that fits you. And I feel like you're trying to pitch yourself to teams. You're trying to sell what you can do for a team, and I felt like the Falcons was a team who they knew exactly what they wanted to do with me. They were kind of pitching me to them.
Okay.
It was different. And I really gravitated towards that. And it really came down to an easy decision. Our goals aligned with each other. our values and what we want to do as a football player, as a football team, really in line with each other. So, it was a fairly easy decision for me. And, shout out to my agent, Ed Berry, for making it happen. He's one of the best in the business. I always got to shout him out.
Heck yeah. I mean, we've seen your speed on display. We've seen kind of the playmaking ability, right? 7 touchdowns as a rookie. That's doesn't come from nowhere. And then, I mean, what you did at Penn State was crazy. I want to ask you about the Ohio State one-handed catch, but I also got to say I feel like one of my favorite plays was the Rutgers kind of like spinning touchdown run there, just because you basically, I think, covered more ground horizontally than you did actually going to the end zone. Like that must be a surreal experience a little bit, to be like, wait, I'm running towards the sideline. But the one-handed catch against Ohio State, if nobody's seen it, please go check it out. Like it's Odell Beckham-esque, right?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's a little bit maybe even more impressive because you're like stopping the ball this way instead of kind of using the backs. Anyway, I noticed though, it was 2020, right? Were there any fans in the stands?
No fans.
How surreal was that?
No fans. It was kind of crazy. I wish the stadium was packed out with fans. That would have been even more sweet. But it was a cool moment. One-hand catches was something that I always worked on. I always got in trouble. My coach would be like, use 2 hands, and I would always go with 1. Like it was just me being a kid and just having fun. But it was something that I always practiced.
Yeah.
And when I got the opportunity, I had to go make a play.
I mean, you've got to practice one-handed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like, I imagine in basketball, back in mid-2000s or whatever, when the three-point shot was really starting to, people were like, no, you got to practice your long twos.
Yep.
And it's like, get out of here. I'm just shooting threes.
Absolutely.
I remember watching, I was here with like Julio and Calvin and Mohamed Sanu, and they would kind of spend the last 30 minutes of a Friday practice off to the side, just like toe dragging, one-handed catches on the sideline, right? I'm sure that still happens all across the league.
Absolutely.
But what do you remember? So no fans or anything. Do you remember anything from like sideline reactions? Because I imagine that's kind of like all that there was. It was more maybe like schoolyard, kind of like, oh, players recognizing players.
Yeah, it was. I was actually I caught the pass on the Ohio State sideline, and as I walked into the end zone, I kind of turned around, and I could just see like the facial reactions from some of the players on the side. They were like, "Oh my gosh, no way he just did that!" And it was a pretty cool moment. And when I got back to the sideline, everyone was praising me. It was awesome.
That's a really cool memory.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few just kind of totally off the cuff, random questions for you. What is something that you're terrible at but you wish you could do well?
Play golf.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's actually such an amazing answer.
Yeah.
Because everybody's terrible at golf, but if you do it really well, like everybody thinks that's impressive.
Literally, everyone.
Great answer. What's the best gift you've ever received?
Best gift I ever received? Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, that's tough. I would say my first football. My parents, from a very young age, put the football in my hands, and they always tell me I never was one to play with toy cars and different things like that. I was always walking around with a football and just asking aunts and uncles to throw with me outside. So got to shout out my parents for putting the football in my hands.
I love that. I can relate. If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
A lion. Easy. King of the jungle. Take it over. Absolutely.
Do lions actually live in jungles?
I don't know.
I feel like I always just see them on Saharas.
Yeah.
Yeah. What small thing annoys you to an irrational degree?
Ooh, biting forks.
Whoa.
Biting silverware.
Yeah.
I hate that like little screech noise. Yeah, that like gives me the chills.
Yeah. Along those same lines, anytime there's like a ceramic plate and somebody's cutting with a knife and it like right on the same page. Yep, yeah, you kind of get that like your body tenses up, like you get an electric jolt going through you. Awesome. Well, Jahan, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down. I'm sure the fans really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And we really look forward to seeing you play this season.
Appreciate it.